I'm Rob, and I'm a recovering compulsive gambler. For 6 years, I was gambling every single day. I was following this rabbit hole where I was just chasing after losses. If I had wins, I was spending big because of the wins. And that led me to gamble for 6 to 8 hours a day, every day, for the course of 6 years. I lost 2 years worth of productive 24-hour days gambling between the ages of 18 and 24. And I don't want that for you. That's why I've started this channel, and that's why I'm going to be making this video here today. All that I'm focused on is helping you to get into recovery for a gambling addiction faster than I did, if you want to quit. If you don't, I'm trying to educate people on what the actual reality of gambling addiction is. You can get addicted to gambling even though there's no substance involved. It functions the same way in your brain as drugs or alcohol in terms of the addictive nature, and it can really ruin your life if you let it go too far. So if any of that resonates with you, you're interested in getting better, you're interested in leaving gambling behind, or you're interested in helping someone else do so, smash that subscribe button and stay up to date on the videos that I release here. I work really hard because I want you to get better just like I have. Today, I'm going to be sharing a little bit about my personal story and touching on 3 main points. These 3 points are going to be 3 lessons that I've learned during my time gambling that I want to share with you so that you don't need to go through the same experience that I did. I'm very passionate about this because I was really in a bad place for a very long time, and I had no idea where to get resources, where to get help, or even the fact that help existed out there somewhere in the first place. I thought I was the only gambling addict in the world, and as I spent nights running off to the bathroom to play blackjack when I was at parties with friends, or hiding in the bathroom at restaurants in order to check on scores from games that I had bet on previously, I really started to feel worn down. I was not enjoying my time anymore, and life was not good. I was stressed, angry, depressed, and especially broke, and I took that out on the other people around me. So if you can relate to those feelings, listen to these 3 realizations that I've had over the course of the time that I was gambling. The very first thing that I can think of, and something that you need to address immediately, is that I had a lack of alternatives for my time. For me, gambling was everything. It was what I did in the morning when I woke up. It's what I thought about at night before I went to bed. And in that between time, I was constantly watching games, playing hands of blackjack, going to the casino if possible, and always just trying to stay in action. My brain craved the rush that I got from gambling, and I had nothing else to do with my time. Before I started placing bets, I loved playing sports. I was playing tennis, basketball, soccer, whatever it was, I enjoyed my time. I was always really competitive, sure, but at least I was taking that out in a healthier way. When I started gambling, I made it my competitive aspect of my life. I made it where I got my meaning from. I made it the place where I could express how smart I was or how good I was at gambling, despite the fact that you can't really be good at gambling. But I was convinced that you could. And so, because I had a lack of other things to channel my energy into, other things to channel my competitive nature into, I didn't know what to do with my life. When I quit gambling, the first thought that I had was, what the hell do normal people even think about? Because all I can think about is gambling. So, until you find some alternatives for your time, you're always going to feel drawn back into gambling, and that's natural. You need to figure out things that you enjoy doing that you can spend your time on. Even though it won't give you that same thrill that gambling gave you, it won't result in you being in debt, angry, depressed, bitter, and upset with the people around you and yourself. You will be better off even without that huge thrill that you might get from being in action, because you don't have to worry about the consequences since you're not gambling. I cannot tell you how much more peaceful my life has become since I've stopped causing my own problems. 90% of the problems in my life, if not more, were caused by my gambling. And without it, life became peaceful. The chaos was gone, and I could focus on actually just being a person and figuring out how to live on that aspect of my life. The second thing that I wish I had realized sooner, but now in reflection is quite clear, is that there was a certain point during my gambling where it stopped being fun. And at that point, I really, really should have quit. But I continued to go because it was so ingrained in me that when I woke up, I was supposed to gamble. When I went to sleep, I was supposed to have just finished gambling. It was probably about 2 years into my gambling where I was so deep in the hole financially that every bet that I placed didn't have that fresh newness to it. It didn't have that enjoyment that I got in the beginning, that rush, that thrill. It was more business. And it's not a business. It's supposed to be seen as entertainment. I was not viewing it as such. I viewed it as my entire life. So as I kept going, I just ended up in really bad positions because a big win wasn't big enough. I was already down such and such amount of money. I needed to come back and win it all. I needed to have this great miraculous comeback. And even when I would have big wins, never would it satisfy that craving. So the moment that it stopped being fun, it should have been done. But I kept going. And I don't want that for you. Not every person that watches this video will be a gambling addict. Not every person that watches this video will want to quit gambling. But if you're noticing a shift from being really fun to being something that's causing more stress than pleasure, give it another look, because it's not worth it to continue down that path just because you're used to doing it. Just because you do one thing doesn't mean you have to continue doing it for the rest of your life. You're not still in kindergarten, right? So the things that you've done since kindergarten have changed until now. The same goes with gambling. Just because 2 years ago you started gambling every single day doesn't mean that you have to continue doing it if you're not feeling the same way about it anymore. Just a little food for thought there, but don't continue down a path just because it's the only path you've ever walked on. There are many other alternatives, just as I mentioned in the previous point. The third thing that I wish that I had realized sooner, but is so obvious now, is that you should never, and I mean never, no matter if you're addicted to gambling or not, never should you borrow money to continue to gamble. There is no excuse, no reason that you should be borrowing money to continue placing bets. This is supposed to be entertainment, guys. And if we're borrowing money to try to get a big win, to cover other debts that we had, or to buy something that we've always wanted, we're putting ourselves at risk financially of things that can cause numerous months or years worth of debt. The last day that I gambled, went to the casino and I had a huge binge gambling session. It probably lasted around 12 hours. After that 12 hours, I had created enough debt that it took me 5.5 months of double shifts in order to pay it down and get back to the even mark, just so that I could start living my life again. I did that in 12 hours. Imagine what you'll do if you keep doing that for 12 months, 12 years. If you keep going and you keep borrowing money to gamble, it's always going to end the same way, because it's never going to be enough. You're going to have to borrow more to cover the debts, or to get that same rush, or to get a bet big enough that you can feel that excitement again. There is no reason to ever be borrowing money to gamble. It's supposed to be entertainment. We have to treat it as such. And if we can't, if you're like me, you have to get away from it. If you're looking for the first steps to stop gambling and get clean from a gambling problem, check out the link down in the description below. I've linked a PDF guide that's 100% free that contains a list of all the resources that I'm aware of for you to get clean from a gambling problem and live a happier and healthy life. All you need to do is click on that, type in your email, and it'll get sent right to you so you can start to work on those things today. Once I started to work at this and I started going to support group meetings, finding alternatives for my time, limiting my access to my money, and limiting my access to the bet, life really started getting better. I made this video highlighting those 4 things, and you should go check that out right now, because those 4 things are the basis for my recovery, and they can be the basis for yours. Again, I'm sharing what's working for me in hopes that it'll work for you faster than it worked for me.